In.
Nothing's changed.
The Tower. Stream all episodes now on ITVX.
Time to start your week with all the news you're waking up to now. With Good Morning Britain. Good morning, Britain. Tens of thousands of pupils returned to school this morning with no idea whether their classrooms are safe. Emergency concrete checks will not be fully completed until December, but parents are demanding action now.
Well, it's the first day back for MPs too, with the government under pressure to explain how this happened and how they'll fix it. The Chancellor says he'll spend whatever it takes, but it turns out that doesn't mean any new money.
There are fears that this week's warm weather will encourage more migrants to risk their lives in small boats after record numbers crossed the Channel over the weekend.
King Charles reportedly too busy to see Prince Harry when he returns to the UK this week on Thursday. Should the monarch make time to heal the family rift?
Do you believe in life after love?
And the one and only Cher joins GMB exclusively as she reveals her quest to rescue animals in captivity, one elephant at a time.
If you keep on believing.
Dry, sunny and hot is the forecast for the rest of the week, with temperatures into the low 30s. I have all the details of that and more coming up on Good Morning Britain.
Monday, 4th of September 2023. Live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain with Susanna, Reid and Ed Balls.
Good morning, Britain. It's just gone 6 o'clock. Welcome to the programme. Good to be back.
I love your hair.
Thank you very much indeed.
Really good.
Yes, I've had a few inches chopped off. I feel a little lighter. Not quite sure what I'm doing after being off all summer. Mildly got caught up in the air traffic control meltdown.
Did you?
Got stuck out in France for an extra 24 hours. Can't complain, to be honest. You know, it's just an extra night, an extra dinner. But I don't know, has everybody got back yet? Because I know that some people had not been offered flights.
Until today?
Until today.
A week.
Yeah, so do let us know if you're still stuck where you don't want to be, because my sympathies, you know, as I say, we were very, very lucky. Just got caught up for a couple of hours.
And is the haircut related to it in any way?
Well, yeah, I got stuck there. I thought, what am I going to do?
Have a haircut.
Chop a few inches off. There we go. Now, it's interesting being back with you as a former Education Secretary.
Back to school.
New term. But, of course, thousands of children don't know what's going to happen with their classrooms. Imagine being a parent and you're sending your child into school and you think, is the ceiling going to collapse? Have they done everything that they need to do to prop it up? Is my school one of those affected? Does the government even know what's going on? I mean, that primary school classroom collapsed back in 2018. That's 5 years ago. Why is it taking so long?
And you're right, it's the not knowing which is so hard to understand. For parents not to know if their school might be at risk. And we're going to be talking to the Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan, later in the programme. She's actually going to come on and talk about these things. But back in March, we were together talking about this issue when I think it was first revealed by ITV. Daniel Hewitt had the story. There were all these schools which had this flawed concrete in their buildings. And at the time, the issue was that the Department of Education had a list of the potential schools affected, but they weren't making it public. And now, what is that, 6 months later, they still haven't made the list public. We know that there's just over 150 schools where there's a confirmed issue, but there's potentially hundreds, thousands of other schools where we still don't know what's happened in the last 6 months. And I think the big question in my mind, as a former Secretary of State, is there a list? Does the Education Secretary know who might be at risk on that list? And if she knows, surely her obligation is to tell parents and schools that they might be at risk. If you're the Education Secretary, you don't teach classes, that's for teachers. You don't run schools, that's for head teachers. There's certain things you do to make sure the system works, like exams and the regulations. But the fundamental thing you've got to do is make sure that children are safe. And in a pandemic, when there's a health issue, but also when there's an issue about the safety of schools, if you know something as Secretary of State, you've got to tell the head teacher straight away, tell the teacher straight away, tell the parents straight away. Is there information we're not being told? Because we need to know it.
Did you not know about this when you were the Secretary of State in charge?
No, not at all. I think clearly there has been an issue with this concrete since the 90s, but the first time it comes, as I understand it, to the awareness of officials in the Education Department is in 2018, where there was an incident in a particular school. Of course, we had a very large school building programme. Famously in 2010, when we left government, Michael Gove scrapped the Building Schools for the Future programme for, I think, 700+ schools. He said 5 years later it was a mistake, he shouldn't have done it, but he didn't know at the time, we didn't know at the time, that one of the reasons why those schools needed to be rebuilt was because of these problems of concrete and asbestos. Yeah. I think if we'd known, we'd have maybe having to do it faster. Yeah. But once you know about it as a Secretary of State, once you know there might be a risk, you've got to sort it out as a priority, because the safety of pupils is your number one concern.
Absolutely right. And as we know, tens of thousands of children returning to classrooms today, you know, in amongst that fear over the safety of the buildings that they're going into. Our correspondent Jonathan Swain is at Claydon High School in Suffolk. Now, that's one of the schools which has been forced to close several classrooms. Louisa James, our political correspondent, is at Westminster with the government's action on this. But, Jonathan, what exactly... I mean, goodness, imagine going back to school, Jonathan, and seeing a corridor closed off like that because of safety fears. I mean, what are teachers and the head teacher in particular saying this morning?